200 guests were watching when Damian Weston made the announcement that ended his own wedding. He was standing at the altar with Ave Carter, holding her hands as they exchanged vows. When he turned toward their guests, Damian, a powerful mafia boss known for his confidence and control, looked completely certain of what he was about to say. He smiled, then announced that he had recently updated his estate plan. If anything happened to him, Maple Ridge, the $1.2 million home where he and Ave lived, would eventually belong to his mother, Evelyn Weston. Applause broke out across the room. Ave didn't clap. She didn't smile. She simply stared at Damian. Maple Ridge? For a moment, she wondered whether she had heard him correctly. Across the aisle, Evelyn looked overwhelmed with emotion. Damian seemed pleased with himself. Ave slowly removed one hand from his. The applause faded. Ave, what did you just say? The room became quiet. Damian repeated himself. Maple Ridge would go to Evelyn. He spoke as though he had just made a generous promise. But Damian hadn't paid for Maple Ridge. Ave had. Years earlier, after losing her parents, Ave received an inheritance. She used that money to purchase the house. Every dollar of the purchase price came from the money her parents left her. Damian knew that. Before buying Maple Ridge, Ave had told him exactly what the house meant to her. Her parents were gone. Their inheritance was one of the last things they had left behind for her, and Ave wanted to turn part of it into something permanent. A home, security, a future. Damian had handled much of the paperwork. Ave trusted him. He understood complicated legal and financial structures far better than she did. And whenever paperwork became confusing, Damian assured her he had everything under control. Ave believed they were equal partners. But now Damian was standing before 200 people deciding who would inherit a house purchased entirely with her money. Something didn't make sense. How can you leave Maple Ridge to anyone? Ave asked. Damian's expression changed. Ave, we'll discuss this afterward. No. Her answer cut through the room. We're discussing it now. Damian glanced toward their guests. Ave noticed. He was worried about the scene unfolding at his wedding. Ave was suddenly worried about something far more serious. She looked directly at him. Whose name is Maple Ridge under? Damian didn't answer. Ave felt something cold settle in her stomach. It was a simple question. If the house belonged to both of them, he could have said so immediately. Damian. He lowered his voice. This isn't the place. That was when Ave knew something was wrong. She thought about every document he had asked her to sign, every financial arrangement he had explained. Every time she had trusted his expertise instead of reading through pages of complicated legal language herself. Ave had provided the money. Damian had controlled the paperwork. Now he apparently had enough legal control over Maple Ridge to decide what happened to it without even consulting her. She pulled her other hand away. Tell me whose name is on my house. Damian stepped closer. You're misunderstanding this. Then explain it. Silence. He didn't. Ave looked at the man she had been seconds away from marrying. She didn't yet know what Damian had done. She didn't know how Maple Ridge had been structured or what documents existed behind it. But she knew she couldn't say, I do, while standing beside a man who knew more about the ownership of her home than she did. Ave reached for her ring. Damian's eyes dropped to her hand. Ave, don't do this. She removed it. His voice hardened. Don't destroy our wedding because of something you don't understand. Ave froze. Something she didn't understand? About a house she had paid for? That sentence made her decision easier. You're right, she said quietly. I don't understand. Damian stared at her. And I'm not marrying you until I do. Shock rippled through the guests. Evelyn rose from her seat. Ave. Ave didn't look at her. She placed the ring into Damian's palm. I'm not marrying a man who can stand in front of 200 people and promise his mother a house I paid for. Damian closed his hand around the ring. The officiant remained silent. Nobody knew what to say. Ave stepped away from the altar. Behind her, whispers exploded across the room. Damian called her name. She kept walking. The wedding was over. But Avenue wasn't going home to cry over the ceremony she had lost. She wanted documents, bank records, every agreement connected to Maple Ridge, because Damian's hesitation had told her more than any explanation could. There was something about her house he had deliberately kept from her, and once Ave started looking, Maple Ridge wouldn't be the only secret she found. The man she almost married hadn't simply been controlling the paperwork. For years, Damian Weston had been quietly building his future with her money. Ave didn't return to Maple Ridge after leaving the wedding. She needed answers before she stepped inside that house again. The first thing she did was gather every financial record she could access. Bank statements, inheritance records, purchase transfers, household expenses, documents connected to Maple Ridge. The money trail was clear. The funds used to purchase the $1.2 million property had come directly from Ave's inheritance. But the ownership documents told a different story. Maple Ridge wasn't registered the way Damian had led her to believe. The property had been placed under a company controlled solely by Damian. Ave read the documents twice. Then a third time. She had supplied the money. Damian had controlled the structure. And somewhere between those two things, Ave had lost control of the house she had paid for. She remembered the conversations before the purchase. Damian had explained that the structure would make handling the property easier. He understood legal language. Ave trusted him. Whenever she asked questions, his answers sounded reasonable enough that she never believed she needed to question his intentions. Now she understood why Damian had been able to stand at their wedding and promise Maple Ridge to Evelyn. Legally, he had positioned himself to control it. Ave contacted legal counsel. She wanted one question answered first. How could a house purchased entirely with her inheritance end up controlled by Damian's company? The answer wasn't simple, but the financial trail mattered. Her inheritance records showed where the purchase money originated, and the documentation surrounding the transaction would become central to challenging what Damian had done. Then Avenue began examining everything else. That was when Maple Ridge stopped being the biggest surprise. For years, Damian had allowed Ave to believe they were building their life together under financial pressure. He never presented himself as poor, but he repeatedly made it seem as though his available money was limited. Ave had covered household expenses because she believed it made sense. She had helped pay debts Damian carried. When unexpected costs appeared, she often handled them. She thought she was supporting the man she planned to marry. Meanwhile, Damian had been hiding a substantial income. Ave discovered evidence of salary and assets she had never known existed. She stared at the figures. Damian had money, significant money, while Avenue was spending her own funds maintaining their life together. Damian had been quietly accumulating wealth. The realization hurt differently from discovering what happened to Maple Ridge. The house could potentially be fought over in court, but there was no legal document capable of restoring years of trust. Ave thought about every sacrifice she had made because she believed they were working toward the same future. Every debt she helped him clear, every household bill she covered, every time she chose not to spend money on herself because she believed their shared responsibilities came first. Damian had watched her do it and said nothing. When Avenue confronted him about the hidden finances, Damian tried to explain. He hadn't wanted anyone believing his success came from Ave's inheritance. He wanted to be seen as self-made, independent, powerful in his own right. Ave couldn't believe what she was hearing. His image had mattered so much that he had hidden his own wealth from the woman he planned to marry. He had allowed her to spend hers while protecting his. You watched me pay your debts. Damian didn't deny it. You watched me cover our expenses while you had money I didn't know existed. His response focused on how he had intended to manage their future. Ave stopped him. There is no our future. Damian stared at her. Ave finally understood the full shape of the deception. Maple Ridge wasn't an isolated decision. It was part of a pattern. Damian controlled the paperwork. Damian controlled what Ave knew. Damian decided which financial truths she was allowed to see. And while Ave believed they were building wealth together, He had been protecting his own assets while benefiting from hers. The wedding announcement hadn't destroyed their relationship. It had exposed it. Ave instructed her legal counsel to move forward. She wanted Maple Ridge challenged. She wanted every transaction involving her inheritance examined. She wanted a complete accounting of how her money had been used. Damian's status didn't change her decision. She wasn't interested in his reputation. She wasn't interested in the image he had spent years protecting. This would be handled through documents, financial records, and the legal system. For the first time, Damian would not control what Ave knew. And Avenue would not walk away simply because fighting him would be difficult. She had already lost years believing a lie. She wasn't going to lose the home her parents' money had purchased too. The legal battle began. And this time, Damian wouldn't be the only person reading the fine print. The legal battle over Maple Ridge began with one question. Where had the money come from? Damian's company might have controlled the property on paper, but Ave's financial records told the story of how the house had actually been purchased. Her legal team traced the payment back to her inheritance. The records were clear. Ave's parents had left that money to her. The $1.2 million used to purchase Maple Ridge had come from those funds. Damian hadn't contributed the purchase price. Yet the property had ended up under a company he controlled. For years, Ave had trusted Damian's explanation of the arrangement. Now every document was being examined without relying on his version of events. That changed everything. Damian fought to defend the structure he had created. But Avenue refused to be pressured into walking away. She had already made that mistake once. She had trusted him because she believed the man she intended to marry would never use her trust against her. This time, she trusted records, transfers, statements, documents. The evidence didn't depend on Damian admitting what he had done. The money could speak for itself. As the dispute continued, Ave also confronted another uncomfortable truth. Even if she recovered Maple Ridge, she didn't want the life she had lived there anymore. The house had once represented everything her parents' inheritance was supposed to give her. Security, stability, a future. Now she couldn't think about Maple Ridge without remembering how easily Damian had taken control of something she believed was hers. She remembered paying household expenses while he protected his own money. She remembered helping with debts while he kept his true income hidden. Most of all, she remembered standing at the altar while Damian promised his mother a home purchased with money left to Ave by her parents. That moment had changed the meaning of the house forever. The legal fight continued until Ave finally succeeded in separating herself financially from Damian and reclaiming control over the property purchased with her inheritance. There was no celebration between them, no emotional reconciliation, no second chance. Ave didn't want one. Their relationship had ended the moment she understood that Damian had built their financial life around information she wasn't allowed to know. She wanted something much simpler now, control over her own future. When everything was finally resolved, Ave left Damian for good. Then she made a decision that surprised people who knew what she had fought to recover. She moved into a smaller apartment. There were no grand rooms, no expensive grounds, no $1.2 million address. And Avenue loved it. On her first evening there, she sat at a small table with her laptop open and went through her finances herself. Every account was visible. Every expense made sense. Every document carried information she understood. Nobody was telling her not to worry about the details. Nobody else controlled the paperwork. Nobody was quietly deciding what happened to her money. Ave created a new financial life with one rule. Nothing she owned would ever again become something she didn't understand. She reviewed her accounts regularly. She knew where her money was held. She knew what she was paying. And she knew exactly what belonged to her. The simplicity felt better than Maple Ridge ever had. Months earlier, Ave had believed she was walking toward the safest future imaginable. She had a beautiful home, a wealthy fiancé, a wedding filled with 200 guests, and a man she believed she could trust with everything. Then one sentence at the altar exposed how little control she actually had. Damian thought announcing Maple Ridge would make him look generous. Instead, he revealed the first crack in a deception Ave might otherwise have discovered only after marrying him. Calling off the wedding had embarrassed her publicly. But marrying Damian without knowing the truth would have cost her far more. Ave didn't regret walking away. She regretted only how long she had trusted without verifying. One evening, she looked around her apartment. It was quieter than Maple Ridge. Smaller, simpler, but nothing inside it depended on Damian Weston. Ave no longer measured security by the size of a house. Security was knowing what she owned, knowing where her money was, knowing nobody could make decisions about her future without her knowledge. She had entered her wedding believing she was about to become Damian's wife. She left it determined to discover what he had hidden, and by the time the legal battle ended, Ave had recovered something more important than a house. She had recovered control of her life. Damian had wanted the world to believe he was a self-made man. Ave no longer cared what the world believed about him. She knew the truth. And now, for the first time in years, every dollar she earned, every decision she made, and every future she planned belonged entirely to her.